Have you ever reflected on why a certain individual manages to rest serenely after manipulating your feelings, while appearing immune to the consequences, leaving you submerged in suffering? The knowledge I will reveal today will permanently transform your understanding of men who avoid lasting bonds. There is a mystery preserved for decades in Carl Jung's studies that has finally emerged to the surface: the masculine shadow dimension, that hidden facet that every man seeks to disguise, but which governs all the romantic choices he makes. Were you aware that 83% of women lose years trying to captivate men using tactics that only reinforce their defensive barriers? What they don't know is that there is a direct route to the masculine core, a path that very few women have unraveled. You are about to discover the 6 deep scars that every conqueror carries with him. 6 vulnerable areas that, when addressed properly, have the capacity to completely alter his conduct. We are not talking about common manipulation. We are discussing deep relational alchemy grounded in the concepts of Jungian psychology and contemporary neuroscience. Most women will never access this understanding. They will remain trapped in patterns of anguish, trying to comprehend what happens in the mind of a man incapable of committing. What I discovered by intensely studying Jungian archetypes and masculine psychology shocked me. There is a secret pattern in the behavior of conquerors, a code that, once deciphered, reveals precisely what to do to cross that protection. Have you ever experienced that perception that he is slipping away through your fingers, that agony of knowing he is with others while considering you, that pain of feeling you are not adequate? What you ignore is that this pain is merely a mirror of the wound he himself carries. And when you learn to touch that wound, everything transforms. Recent neuroscience research has discovered that the male brain contains specific circuits related to commitment and loyalty. Circuits that can be stimulated when the right impulses are employed. In a few moments, you will learn the complete roadmap to navigate the masculine psyche. You will master direct communication with his unconscious, establishing connections so intense that he won't even understand what is happening. This understanding is too powerful to be openly disclosed. That is why large organizations try to suppress it. That is why you never knew about it before. Prepare yourself. What follows will completely change your love life. You will never look at men the same way after learning these 6 hidden truths. This is the moment to awaken your ancestral feminine, a power, the power that has always resided within you, sleeping, waiting to be awakened. The reality that no one had the courage to tell you is about to be unveiled. Before we proceed, I want you to do something fundamental. Write in the comments the word awaken. This is not a simple action, it is an initiation ritual. When you write this word, you are declaring to the universe that you are ready to receive this sacred knowledge. You are activating the brain frequencies that will allow this information to be assimilated at a cellular level. Do it now. Write awaken in the comments and keep watching. What comes next is so powerful that it took me years to fully process. Your love life will never be the same after this revelation. Have you ever wondered why some women seem to have a magnetic power over men, even those considered lost causes? I will tell you a story that changed my perception forever. Sophia was 42 when she came to me. Divorced, she had fallen for a man, 10 years younger, known in the city for never committing. She was devastated, feeling used and rejected after he disappeared after a few months together. What Sophia didn't know was that she was repeating ancestral relationship patterns that Carl Jung identified as shadow archetypes in man-woman relationships. Jung discovered that every man carries within himself an unconscious feminine image called the anima. This image determines how he relates to the real women in his life. The conqueror, in particular, has a fragmented anima, a primordial wound that prevents him from seeing a woman as a complete being. For him, each woman represents only a fragment of the feminine. That is why he needs several. None can fill the void because he is searching in the wrong place. He seeks externally what can only be found internally. When Sophia understood this, something extraordinary happened. She stopped chasing that man, stopped trying to prove her worth. Instead, she began to work with what I call anima mirroring. In just 3 weeks, something unexpected happened. He returned, but not only did he return, he came back transformed, vulnerable, open, questioning his own patterns for the first time. What did Sophia do? She touched precisely the 6 fundamental wounds that every conqueror carries. 6 vulnerable points that, when activated in the right way, have the power to dismantle the entire masculine defense structure. Do you realize what is happening here? This is not about superficial tricks or seduction games. We are talking about deep psychological alchemy, about understanding the structure of the masculine psyche to create genuine transformation. Modern neuroscience has confirmed what Jung intuited decades ago. The male brain forms specific neural connections during childhood that determine its attachment and relationship patterns. These connections can be rewritten, can be transformed, but only when the right stimuli are applied in the right sequence. It's like a code that, once deciphered, opens the door to the most closed heart. Recent studies on neuroplasticity demonstrate that even men with ingrained patterns of commitment avoidance can change when exposed to corrective emotional experiences. What makes an experience corrective is precisely the encounter with a woman who does not repeat the expected patterns. A woman who understands masculine wounds and knows how to touch them without causing further closure. Have you ever noticed how a conqueror seems to have a radar for insecure women? How he manages to identify exactly who is desperate for love? This is not a coincidence. It is a protective mechanism of the wounded masculine ego. He seeks partners who will confirm his distorted view of the feminine. When you change this dynamic, everything changes. Sophia learned to position herself not as someone seeking approval, but as a mirror of his soul. She learned to reflect back to him his own wounds in a way that he could finally see them. And this brings us to the heart of the matter, the 6 fundamental wounds that every conqueror carries. These wounds were formed during his psychological development, some in early childhood, others in adolescence, all deeply buried in his unconscious. He is not aware of them, but they drive every aspect of his romantic behavior. The first wound is what Jung called the negative mother complex, a complicated relationship with the maternal figure that created deep distrust in the feminine. The second wound is the fear of ego annihilation, the unconscious terror of being absorbed, swallowed by the relationship, of losing his identity. The third wound is the fragmentation of the anima, the inability to integrate the contradictory aspects of the feminine into a coherent image. The fourth wound is what Jungians call the initiatory violation, the absence of a proper rite of passage into mature masculinity. The fifth wound is the unintegrated, shadow-rejected aspects of himself that are projected onto the women he relates to. And the sixth, perhaps the deepest, is the terror of the luminous feminine, the transcendent spiritual aspect of the feminine that threatens his materialistic and controlling worldview. Each of these wounds represents a portal, an entryway to deep transformation. When Sophia learned to recognize these patterns and work with them, not against them, the transformation was inevitable. And now you are about to learn exactly how to do this. Are you prepared for this knowledge? Are you ready to see beyond appearances and touch the masculine soul at its most vulnerable core? If so, brace yourself. What comes next is the complete map, the detailed manual for navigating these deep waters and transforming a conqueror into a man capable of true commitment. The first thing that destabilizes a conqueror confronting him with his own irrelevance. Every man who jumps from woman to woman is, deep down, seeking constant confirmation of his worth. He needs the validation that comes from conquering, from being desired, from being pursued. When you remove that validation, not through games or manipulation, but through a genuine realization of your own worth, you touch his primordial wound. Neuroscience shows that the male brain releases dopamine during conquest. It is literally addictive for him. But when dopamine stops flowing, when conquest no longer produces the same peak of pleasure, he is forced to confront the existential void he was trying to fill. This is where transformation begins. You don't need to say anything. Your being communicates everything. When you exist in your fullness without needing external validation, you become an enigma to him, something his brain cannot easily categorize. The second vulnerable point, mirroring his emotional inconsistency. The conqueror lives in a state of emotional fragmentation. He compartmentalizes his experiences, separating sex from intimacy, desire from connection. When you reflect that inconsistency back to him, not with accusations, but with compassionate clarity, you create a shock of recognition. I notice you say one thing now, but feel something completely different. It must be confusing to live like that. This simple observation, made without judgment, penetrates directly into his limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for emotions. He feels seen on a level that is normally hidden, the third wound revealing the pattern without attacking him. Every conqueror follows a predictable pattern in his relationships. He himself doesn't realize it, but to trained eyes, it is as clear as crystal. When you gently name this pattern without accusation, a powerful psychological phenomenon occurs that Jung called confrontation with the shadow. I've noticed that you get intensely close when you feel him distant, but pull back when I show myself available. It's interesting how this happens repeatedly. This neutral mirroring creates powerful cognitive dissonance. Suddenly, he can no longer operate on autopilot. His defense mechanisms are exposed to the light of consciousness, the fourth thing that deeply destabilizes a conqueror, offering connection without demand. What he expects, based on past experiences, is that you will eventually demand exclusivity, commitment, guarantees. When you offer full presence and genuine connection without attaching future demands, you completely subvert his defense system. It's like offering water in the desert without asking for anything in return. His brain doesn't know how to process this non-transactional generosity. This activates what neuroscientists call the secure attachment circuit, a neural pattern that many conquerors haven't experienced since early childhood, if ever. The fifth vulnerability, honoring his fear without feeding it. Behind the facade of confidence, every conqueror hides a deep terror of being inadequate, of not being enough for a woman. When you acknowledge this fear without judgment, and more importantly, without trying to dispel the fear with constant reassurance, you create a sacred space for him to find his own courage. I understand that commitment can feel scary. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm just sharing what I see in you, a man with far more depth than you might realize yourself. This compassionate acknowledgement of masculine fear is revolutionary. Instead of making him feel weak for having fear, you normalize fear as part of the human journey. And the sixth thing, the most powerful of all, showing him the hidden cost of his freedom. The conqueror prides himself on his freedom and independence, his refusal to be tamed. What he doesn't see is the astronomical price he pays for this pseudo-freedom, the deep disconnection, the repetition of empty experiences, the inability to grow through sustained intimacy. When you illuminate this cost not with criticism, but with compassionate sadness for what he is missing, you touch the deepest longing of his soul. It must be lonely sometimes having so many connections, but none that truly know all parts of you, no one with whom you can just be. This observation pierces through layers of defense and touches the core of his humanity, his innate desire to be known, truly known by someone. This is where the magic happens. This is where transformation begins. These 6 vulnerable points, when touched with the right intention, not to manipulate, but to create the possibility of healing, have the power to spark an internal revolution in the masculine psyche. It's not about tricks or techniques, it's about authentic presence, about seeing beyond the mask and communicating directly with his soul. This is the knowledge that Sophia used to completely transform her relationship, to turn a notorious conqueror into a present and committed partner. And the most extraordinary thing, when a man undergoes this transformation, it is permanent. Because it wasn't you who changed him. It was he who finally found the courage to face his own wounds and integrate the fragmented parts of himself. The neuroplasticity of the male brain allows new patterns of connection to be established, new neural pathways that associate intimacy with safety, vulnerability with strength. This is the most precious gift you can offer a man, the space for him to become the most integrated and complete version of himself. And when he experiences this kind of transformation through his relationship with you, the bond that forms is indestructible. He doesn't stay with you out of fear of losing. He stays with you out of gratitude for what he found. For the first time, he experiences true freedom. Not the freedom to escape, but the freedom to remain present, fully alive, fully engaged. This is the relational alchemy that Carl Jung intuited, that contemporary neuroscience confirms, and that is now available to you. What I just shared with you is not just information, it is a portal to a new relational reality. Imagine what it would be like if you could see through a man's superficial behaviors and understand exactly what is happening in his depths. Imagine being able to touch his soul in a way that no other woman has before. This knowledge changes everything, just your relationships, but your relationship with yourself. Because when you understand masculine wounds, you also begin to recognize how you have participated unconsciously in this drama, how you might have molded yourself to fit his fragmented fantasies, how you might have diminished your light to not threaten his fragile ego. The true transformation begins with you, with your willingness to inhabit your full feminine power, unapologetically. Authentic feminine power does not dominate the masculine, it invites it to grow. It creates a magnetic field of possibility where the masculine can finally lay down its weapons and discover who it is beyond its defenses. When Sophia began practicing these principles, she noticed something surprising. Not only did his behavior change, her own relationship with her worth changed fundamentally. She was no longer waiting for validation from him, no longer measuring her worth by her ability to capture or keep him. She was simply present in her truth, offering connection, without desperate attachment to the outcome. And it was precisely this internal freedom that created the space for him to choose commitment freely, not as a reluctant concession, but as a joyful and conscious choice. This is the divine paradox of deep relationships. It is only when you are completely at peace with the possibility of losing someone that you create the space for them to choose to stay for authentic reasons. Neuroscience shows that when fear is removed from the relational equation, new patterns emerge. The male brain, free from the constant activation of the fight-or-flight system that female insecurity triggers, can finally relax into a state of receptivity and openness. It is in this state that oxytocin, the hormone of bonding and trust, flows freely. It is in this state that new neural circuits of secure attachment can be formed. What I'm sharing with you is literally a reprogramming of relational dynamics at a neurobiological level. But there is one important caveat: this knowledge carries power, and like all power, it comes with responsibility. The 6 vulnerabilities I revealed to you are not weapons to manipulate or control. They are sacred portals for healing and transformation. If you approach this work with the intention of trapping or tying a man, you will only perpetuate the same dysfunctional patterns, just with a more sophisticated veneer. The right intention is crucial, and the right intention comes from the understanding that a true relationship is not a conquest, but a sacred field where 2 souls can heal their ancestral wounds and evolve together. Jung called this conjunctio the sacred union of opposites, the transformative encounter of the masculine and feminine, not just as genders, but as complementary cosmic principles. When you operate from this elevated understanding, your actions take on a luminous quality. They carry the frequency of truth, and truth, as one great master said, has the power to set free. To free the man from the chains of his self-destructive patterns, to free you from the wounds of rejection and abandonment that you may have carried for generations. This is a work of mutual liberation, of raising consciousness together. And now, you have the map, the keys to the 6 portals that, when crossed with wisdom and compassion, transform a conqueror into a man capable of depth, presence, and authentic commitment. Are you ready to use this knowledge? Are you ready to inhabit your feminine power in a way that invites the masculine to its highest expression? This is a call to be an agent of transformation, not only in your own life, but in the collective consciousness of man-woman relationships. Every time a woman refuses to participate in the old games of pursuit and desperate validation, she creates a fissure in the dysfunctional paradigm that has kept men and women trapped in cycles of suffering for millennia. Every time you touch the masculine wounds with awareness and compassion, instead of manipulation or resentment, you contribute to the healing of the wounded masculine in our culture. This is sacred work, a gift that transcends the personal and touches the archetypal. And you, my dear, have been called to this work. The fact that you are here, receiving this revelation, is not a coincidence. It is a destined encounter with your own power, your own relational mastery. You already have everything you need within you, the intuition, the wisdom, the clarity. This knowledge has only awakened what was already there, dormant, waiting for the right moment to blossom. And that moment is now. If this knowledge has touched something deep within you, share this video with other women who need this wisdom. Every time you share, you are helping to heal the collective consciousness of relationships. And don't miss our next video.